If you're relocating because you want walkability, transit, and the real urban convenience, this video is your shortcut. In the next 10 minutes,
10 minutes. 10 minutes.
I'll give you 7 reasons Chicago urban living works better than outsiders expect, and the one realistic caveat.
So there's a bit of a catch.
You need to know for each reason before you buy. And by the end, you'll know exactly what to look for on a map, in a listing, and in a neighborhood. So you can choose a Chicago home that matches a car-light lifestyle. Chicago is not a car optional in theory. It's car optional in practice for a meaningful share of residents. Citywide, a large proportion of households have no vehicle available. The typical household drives fewer miles per year than the region overall. So, daily life can be structured around walking, transit, and shorter trips instead of constant driving. A big reason is the sheer scale of the transit system. CTA, the Chicago Transit Authority, reports 338 million rides in 2025 and over 1 million rides on average weekday, which tells you this isn't a boutique rail line. It's the backbone people actually use. Here's the caveat. Car light depends on where you buy and how you live. If your job is far from high-frequency transit and your errands require cross-town trips, you can still end up driving a lot. And even CTA's own 2025 ridership reinstatement highlights a hard truth. Fare evasion and funding pressures are real system issues that can affect rider experience over time. Most outsiders think Chicago means either downtown tourism or a few famous neighborhoods. The surprise is how many areas function as complete walkable districts with apartments near everyday retail, schools, parks, and frequent bus corridors. You can even see it in travel behavior. In the regional planning agency Chicago Community Snapshot, Chicago showed a meaningful share of commuters using transit and walking, biking, not just driving alone. That doesn't prove that every block is perfect, but it does indicate that there's non-car living is normal enough to show up in the data. The caveat,
bad news, everyone,
right, is that walkability is hyperlocal. Two areas can be both in Chicago and still feel totally different. One has a walkable commercial spine every few blocks. The other has a wider arterial roads and everyday services and bigger gaps between destinations. So your buyer strategy should be walk the errands before you fall in love with the finishes. If you buy near the right transit, you're not just getting a commute option, you're buying back time. The CTA system is large enough that it runs like a network, 146 rail stations, 127 bus routes, and extensive bus stop coverage. That changes what normal looks like on a weekday. It can also change your monthly budget map. As of the CTA's published fare info, a full fare 30-day CTA pace pass is $75, which is often less than what people spend just to store a car before gas, insurance, maintenance, or tickets. Caveat, transit is not frictionless. Reliability, crowding, and personal safety concerns vary by line, time, and station. And the CTA's March 2026 memo shows that how complex the ridership reality is, including the role of underpaid rides, important context when you're thinking about long-term funding stability and service quality. Hey, listen, before we go further, if you're interested in Chicago real estate insights like this, make sure you subscribe to the channel. It's a way I can get it out and those YouTube gods can bless my content with you good folks. I do it every single week. Chicago's bike story is bigger than most buyers assume. The city reports 68.7 miles of protected bike lanes and 85.2 miles of neighborhood greenways as of December 2025. That matters because protection and low-stress routes are what turned biking from a weekend hobby into a viable transportation option. And it's not just miles on paper. The city continues adding neighborhood route concepts, greenways, traffic calming, and safer crossings so more trips can be done on 2 wheels instead of by car. Caveat, the network is uneven and politics matters. Some proposals still avoid true protection on major streets, and the neighbor debate can water down designs. If biking is core to your lifestyle, you need to evaluate the specific corridors between home, work, and errands, not just whether our neighborhood has a bike lane somewhere. A mass audience thinks Chicago equals downtown skyscrapers. The reality is downtown is changing, especially in how it adds housing. But the best daily life Chicago is often neighborhood-based, not tourist-based. First, Chicago Loop is actively working to become more than the 9-to-5 office district. Data cited by the Chicago Loop Alliance and a downtown advocacy group shows weekend pedestrian activity on State Street exceeding 219 levels in early 2024, while weekday activity from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. still lagged. Plus, the Loop faced high retail vacancy. Translation: it can feel lively during events and weekends, yet still inconsistent on the weeknights. Second, the big structural shift is adaptive reuse, converting older office buildings into housing. One LaSalle Corridor project includes a conversion of historic office building into 117 residential units, a real example of downtown housing supply being created from existing structures. And the Loop Alliance report referenced 4 area conversions, projected to create 1,037 apartments, including hundreds with affordable rents, with leasing anticipated in late 2026, early 2027. Now, in River North neighborhood, for example, 310 West Huron shows the same downtown evolution logic. Even though it's infill rather than office conversion, a surface parking lot at Huron and Orleans is being replaced by a 9-story, 149-unit residential building with ground floor retail, and developers sought to cut required off-street parking dramatically because the site is transit served. That's downtown land use, literally shifting from car storage to housing. Caveat: what you want in the street life after 5 p.m. every day, you have to choose carefully. Some downtown blocks still go quiet outside business hours, which is why many buyers end up preferring the neighborhood corridors, where residents, not commuters, drive the vibe. Oh, and folks, but by the way,
Hey, listen up.
if you're relocating to Chicago and trying to figure out which neighborhood actually fits the way you want to live, this is exactly the conversation I have with buyers, because this is not just about bedroom count and budget. Those matter, of course. I'm a realtor focusing on urbanism, as you know, and I understand that, but the bigger question is lifestyle fit. Are you trying to go car light? Do you want to be able to walk more for your daily needs? And are you okay with a quieter pocket if it means a little more space? Or are you going to regret that in 4 months because what you really wanted was more energy, more convenience, and more urban rhythm? So if you're serious about a move, reach out to me. I have on the screen here a scheduler. You can click on it. It's a QR code and schedule a consult. We can talk through your criteria before you make a mistake that looks smart on paper but feels wrong once life kicks in. This is the biggest buyer mistake I see. People say they want walkable Chicago, then they buy a home that forces a suburban routine. In the city, neighborhood selection is lifestyle selection. For example, near Northside Community Area, snapshot shows every high no vehicle household and low annual vehicles traveled, while the O'Hare Community Snapshot shows far higher annual driving and far fewer zero vehicle households. Same city, totally different lifestyle. Here's a practical lens. Transit-oriented living usually means being within a comfortable walk of fast, frequent service. The CTA frames TDOT, typically within a half mile, about a 10-mile walk of rail stations or of key bus corridors. In other words, you can map this before you ever tour a condo. Caveat: the best fit neighborhoods isn't always the most famous ones. Sometimes you're trading off rent or purchase price, school priorities, space needs, or quieter streets. The win is knowing which trade-off you're making on purpose. Here's the part that makes the better than you think claim credible. The upside comes with real friction. If you want density and convenience, you're often stepping into older buildings, tighter storage, and more street noise, and the shared wall living. Older homes is not a side note, it's a major part of the Chicago experience. The city of Chicago shows a large share of housing built before 1940, which is a reminder that many homes come with legacy systems, maintenance needs, or renovation history you'll want to understand before you waive inspections. And yes, parking can feel like a hidden tax. Chicago has been pushing towards more transit-oriented development with less parking, which is good for housing supply and walkability. But if you plan to keep multiple cars, you're choosing a harder mode inside of an increasingly car-light environment. Caveat: this is important. These trade-offs don't mean don't buy. They mean buy with eyes wide open. Look for reserves, evaluate sound and lighting, and match the building and block to your daily habits, not your weekend fantasies. If you're relocating and trying to choose a Chicago neighborhood through an urbanism lens, walkability, transit access, biking, this is exactly what I help buyers map before they commit. Now use the link in the description to reach out. You can schedule a real estate consultation. We can look at your goals, look at your budget range. If you want more videos like this, hit subscribe, because my next set will break down specific neighborhoods and what car light actually feels like on a Tuesday, not on a vacation weekend.